I could see it gliding. It wasn't walking. Now it was moving like that there, towards me. Well, I'll tell you a story that happened to me when I was in Tipperary. Now, I never got an explanation of it. Now, I don't know the explanation. But I come home one night, and in the usual way, I took my supper and went to bed. And in the middle of the night, the door of that room opened, and a figure came into the room dressed like a Capuchin monk. You know, with a shroud on its head and all. And I can see it yet. This is a strange thing about this. I could see it gliding. It wasn't walking. Now it was moving like that there, towards me. And I couldn't safely say whether I was awake or whether I was asleep or what. But this figure came over to the bed. And as it stooped down over me like that in the bed, the hood fell back on his head, and although it was a skull, it was just a skeleton, I knew it was an antimane. And the screech that I let out of me, the house that I was living in was a railway station master's house on the other side of the road. And the screech that I let out of me that night in the room, it was on the ground floor, George Shelley heard it on the night duty over in the station and came running back over to the house. He didn't know what happened. And as soon as I let that yell, that figure come back, and I seen it as plain as I'm looking at it, going out through the door into Shelley's hall. And I knew it was an antimane, although there was no likeness, resemblance or anything. But still,
you had
had that
feeling
notion. That's right.
Oh, was your aunt dead?
My aunt was dead at the time.
Sure, they used to tell, but after someone's died, their spirit come back. Did you ever hear that?
I've heard things like that. Yeah.
Spirit come back, and that now I remember in our house. Not here, but in Gillistown we lived in. And I mean these boys used to gather in. There was not the old men that were used to gather in and used to tell about coming away around by these corners and all one place and all. And when they come to this place, they seen a wee woman and a red handkerchief right, just like mine now, a wee red handkerchief right over her head. And they're all walking in a row. And that wee woman walked in between them, right past them, right, and not one of them seen him, but this other old man. They called him Duffin, and that was the only man seen that wee woman, and the rest all walked on, and he was saying, did you see that, did you see that? But nobody ever seen the woman. She passed in between the law. Did you ever hear that?
Well, I never heard anything like that, but who was she? Who was this wee woman that had passed?
The wee woman was a woman that was dead.
I remember just telling Mary the other night now about it. And there's somebody down in the middle row, that's where at the far end of the town, down the Lagall Road there, see. And whoever this fellow was, I just forget who it was. But anyhow, this is years ago, there used to be the water pipe out in the yard, you see. If you want to drink water or the like of that, or want water for washing up, you went to the yard and turned on the tap. So apparently he went out this night to get a drink of water in the tap, and he had just taken the cup and all and it's up to his mouth, and the apparition of his brother just was there in front of him. And it was the next day then that he got word that the brother had died.
My grandfather, when he lived at Lisleigh, was coming home out of Armagh one occasion on that road.
Yes.
And of course it's associated with traditional stories about ghosts and all. But he started coming out of Armagh, he started to walk and he come part of that Beach Hill Road where he
Yes.
would have torn down to the sleigh.
Oh, at the top of it to the
And
left.
he kept on, he'd be about, I only heard the story, about 9 o'clock in the night. When he reached Beach Hill Crossroads.
Oh, I see, yes.
And his feet kept going like that there. For a couple of hours, till the sweat was drowning him.
My goodness.
And there he was doing like this, when a man overtook him on the road. And my grandfather says to him, I can't move out of this. Oh, he says, wait till I get by from ye. And as soon as I get by, take your coat off. And change your coat inside out. And you'll get home. And grandfather took his coat off and changed it. And fell down on the road from sheer exhaustion. But got up and made his journey home all right. Them's true stories.
What was it that had caused him to be?
A spell on the road. Ghosts have a habit of doing that.
I've heard as well that some people can see things and other people can't. You know, there's some people that, you know, has the power of seeing and other people haven't it. And I was hearing about, down in County Down one day, I was hearing a story about a man, it wasn't about a man at all, it was women were in a house, you know, there was somebody was dying and the women were in looking to see what was happening. And one of them had gone out to get coal outside and a couple of the others came down to see was she alright, you know, and she was going out and she was coming in through the door and she got an awful start for she saw somebody going past her and it was the woman that was lying dying upstairs, you know, and she just saw her walking past her out the door and she was terrified at this, you know, and none of the others saw anything and she just put out her hand and touched one of the other women to say, did you see that? Did you see her going out the door there? And as soon as she put her hand on the other girl saw her going out as well. You know, she couldn't see it until the other woman touched her. And then she saw what was happening. You know, it was just that one of them had the power of seeing, and the woman of course upstairs was dead and she had seen her leaving the house then.
I don't believe in ghosts at all.
Oh, well, I do, you see.
But this instance happened now with me and Horry here. We were going up by Compton's Gates, and you know there was always a ghost.
There's always reputed to be haunted.
Haunted. Now this was in the summer's evening, and one of the busiest roads, the Armagh Monaghan Road, and me and Horse coming along, and I was linked. She had a habit of linking my arm, and we were coming along, and I looked and saw this man behind me, Tom. And I thought he was almost up on me, walking along the wall, the Compton's wall.
Yes.
And so I stepped back to let him pass on the footpath.
Oh, aye.
And I stepped back. Both was walking abreast. I let Mary go on and stepped back to make room for this man to pass. Mary says, oh, Jesus, the cow. Do you know, she says the cow, and she was in an awful state of cowness. And suddenly I felt extremely cold. But she never seen any man. And where I stepped to make room for him to pass, he never passed. The lady of the house died, and she had two beautiful rings on her finger, and they buried her, you know.
Oh, yes.
Up the Newry Road.
Oh, that's at Lisnadill.
At Lisnadill.
Remember that.
And there was a servant boy in the house, and he knew that she was buried with these two rings on her. So the first night that she was in the grave, he went back and he opened up the grave, threw the clay and all out, and got down to the lid of the coffin, screwed the lid of the coffin off, and proceeded with this is history, proceeded to cut the rings on her finger. And on cutting one of the rings on her finger, he nipped her torso, and she wakened up. And he run for his life and was never seen afterwards. But she got up and walked home, and went into the house where the husband and the 3 sons and a couple of daughters were mourning, and lived for 20 years after it.
I remember years and years ago, the talk was about this house, and there was a man in this country. He lived about a mile down the road, and he feared nothing. He feared nothing, and he said he would go and sit in this house, and he went to sit in the house. And he left it at 1 o'clock in the morning. He left it. He said the noise and the racket up the stairs, like somebody throwing furniture about. And he left. He didn't stay any longer. And there's a family living in it, but there's one room in it that they don't go into. This is not occupied. And I remember there was a death in the house, and the people was going to the wake to pay their respects to the wake, and it was the older people was warning the young ones that was going to the wake, don't go into this room, or don't try to go into that room. You know that the fear was on the younger people.
What was supposed to have happened in the room?
Nobody seems to know what happened in it.
But I went to this house here now, and I was hired, and they went away on holidays, and they left me in the house. And I stayed in the house anyway for a long, long time, and I could still hear this rattling in the house, but I never passed any remarks on it whenever they were there. And they were all away then, you see, and there was a big dog, they called him Shepherd. And you'd have to milk the cows, and then they would separate the milk and make butter out of it, you see. I had this all to do, and then I would close the doors were all closed up. There was a place like that, and then you come in through that and close that door, like. And I slept in a wee room down here, and the cans of milk and all was sitting round to cool, you see, and everything. And this rattling started, and I could hear the milk cans, you know, the lids, like, do you think they were changing them about, like? And I thought the dog was had I left him in, you see, and that he was at the milk. And I got up and opened the door and put on the electric light. There was electric light there and all. At that time there was an engine making the light. And there was nothing at all, no dog in or nothing. And I closed the door. The minute I closed the door, this wrecking started again. And I was in that house for a lifetime. Away maybe 18 months or maybe 2 years nearly. And that still went on. I often heard it, and I don't know what it was. It's a funny thing. I never was afraid or anything, but it was still there. There was someone rattling in it.